Okay. Okay. All right. Welcome, everyone. So my name is Todd Scanlon. I'm an Agile coach over at Industry Canada, or ISET. I'm here with my colleague, Jonathan, and we're proud to present to you a great friend of ours. His name is Damon Poole, and he'll be presenting us what can we learn from Agile and the difference between a coach and an expert. And all right, so Damon, I want to take us off, and just note, if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll take a note of them and ask during our talk today. So any questions you have, I'll take note. So Jonathan, Damon, over to you.
Thank you, Todd. Looking forward to this. All right, so what can we learn from Agile about the difference between a coach and an expert? So a little bit about my background. I've been in Agile since 2005. I am a certified professional coach and have a book coming out in the spring called Professional Coaching for Agilists. Spent a number of years at Eliason growing their Agile practice there, and was born a programmer. So that's a little bit about me. So we have three things on the agenda. We're going to spend a little time on what is Agile. If you're new to Agile, this will just be a quick overview, give you a sense of what we're talking about when it comes to Agile. Then we'll talk about coach versus expert, and then we'll show some ways that we can provide expertise with a coaching mindset.
Donc, aujourd'hui, nous allons voir trois points essentiels. Le premier point, c'est qu'est-ce que l'agilité. Ensuite, nous allons comparer le coaching et l'expertise, les deux postures. Et enfin, nous verrons ce que peut offrir l'expertise avec un état d'esprit de coaching.
All right. So if you've heard of Agile before, you may have heard of things like stand-ups, retrospectives, burn downs, burn ups, things like this. And those are part of the Agile community, but Agile is a little bit different. Agile is actually these principles and values.
Donc, si vous avez déjà entendu parler de l'agilité, vous avez certainement déjà entendu parler d'outils, les rétrospectives, les stand-up, les burn-down charts. Mais l'agilité, c'est avant tout des principes et des valeurs qui sont celles listées présentement.
And so these are sort of adapted for this presentation. If you want to see the original wording, that's in something called the Agile Manifesto, which you can find via Google.
Évidemment, celles que l'on vous présente aujourd'hui sont des valeurs et des principes adaptés pour la présentation. Celles d'origine sont présentes dans le manifeste Agile qu'on peut trouver sur le site internet du manifeste.
So one other thing about the Agile Manifesto is that it was originally written for software, but many people these days are using it in all aspects of work. I've worked with some companies, for instance, within their marketing department.
Le manifeste Agile était écrit initialement pour le milieu du développement logiciel, mais à travers les années, il s'est étendu et maintenant on le trouve dans tout un tas de secteurs de l'industrie et des activités professionnelles telles que le marketing.
So a couple of examples of things that are perhaps a little bit different from an Agile perspective are that we try to reduce the project delivery time from perhaps years to something much shorter. And of course, if we're going to use a shorter time frame, we're going to deliver less, but we'll deliver frequently.
Ce que l'on essaye de faire, l'un des éléments principaux, c'est de réduire les temps de cycle Donc, réduire historiquement de plusieurs années à quelques semaines, voire même quelques jours, et ainsi pouvoir s'améliorer plus rapidement.
Another thing that's very different as an example is that everybody that's involved in producing something, rather than working on multiple things at the same time, we'd have them working on one thing from start to finish as a team with all of the different skills needed.
Une autre particularité est d'avoir des équipes complètes avec des skill sets complets et cross-fonctionnels, de façon à ce que l'équipe bénéficie de toutes les compétences nécessaires pour le projet.
So Todd, I noticed that there's been some things in the chat. I haven't quite looked at it, but I wonder if there's anything to go to at the moment.
Sure, we've got one question so far. So if you have an Agile project, then does it make sense to coach people in the project with this framework?
Yes. So yes. I'm not sure what the alternative would be. Perhaps there's a follow-up question as well. Perhaps I didn't quite get the.
Todd, would you allow me to give the question in French?
You are allowed.
La question est si nous avions un projet agile, est-ce que cela ferait du sens de coacher les personnes directement à même le projet avec ce framework? Et bon, la réponse semble oui. Et on s'attendrait à une question de suivi.
Okay.
So I think Damon will get close to this. It's the balance between giving expertise and coaching.
Okay. I think I see that. All right. So as we go through, perhaps that question will be better answered. And if there is a follow-up, of course, feel free.
And just one more question. Is Agile similar to Lean?
Yes. Agile is similar to Lean. In fact, while we're not going to talk about it today, one of the frameworks that is used in the Agile community is called Kanban. And there's a lot of crossover there. That would be a sort of an advanced topic, but for sure, there are many similarities and overlaps.
Sans aller dans tous les détails des relations entre Lean et Agile, il y a en effet plusieurs similarités, dont l'un des frameworks utilisés dans la communauté qui s'appelle Kanban et qui vient puiser sa source dans les...
All right, let's continue. So one of the frameworks that is in the Agile community that comes from Agile is called Scrum. It's probably the most popular, well-known framework that's out there. And this is a very high-level view of how it works, just to give you a taste of it. So let's say that you have something that you need to get done with high quality, and to generate the most value for that in the next 1 to 4 weeks. So first question is, who should we dedicate to it? Right. So if it's very high value, who are the people that we can dedicate to it to work on just this one thing? And so I will go through this in English, and then Jonathan will go through it separately in French. All right, so then once we have that team together, the question is, what can this team do in the next 1 to 4 weeks that will generate the most value? Because there's probably a whole lot of value, but what's the small chunk we can do right now. So we have work that we planned, and if it's not planned, we're not working on it. We're working on it, it's part of the plan. So then we do whatever that work is, and just that work. And of course, it might get more complicated than this, but for now, let's go with the easy case. So we do the work, and then we show the work. So whoever we would normally show at the end of a larger project, we would get involved here if we can. We won't take a lot of time because there's not much that we've done. Based on that, so maybe they say great things, maybe they say, oh, you need to make a change, or we realize, ooh, it didn't work out quite the way we hoped. So then at the end, we have a retrospective and think, how could we in the next period of time do even better? We repeat, and this sequence together from the beginning to end is called a sprint, and it might be 1 week to 4 weeks. Two other ingredients is that we have the team. It's called a cross-functional team with people from different departments or different areas working together as a team. And then we have a person called a Scrum Master. And the Scrum Master is the person that understands Scrum really well and is teaching it and helping people do Scrum well.
L'un des frameworks de l'environnement agile, on mentionnait Kanban précédemment, un autre est Scrum. Ce framework, si on devait le présenter à très haut niveau, eh bien, il inclut que notre objectif est de produire des éléments de haute qualité, générer le plus de valeur possible, disons, dans les 1 à 4 prochaines semaines. Alors, la première question est de se demander qui devrions-nous dédier à cela. Ensuite, une autre question que l'on viendrait se demander, c'est que peut faire cette équipe? Donc, il y a un très fort focus sur l'équipe, l'autonomisation de l'équipe dans ces 1 à 4 prochaines semaines. Et qu'est-ce qu'elle peut faire pour générer de la valeur? Nous allons donc organiser le travail. Nous allons planifier pour cette petite période de temps le travail à réaliser. Le travail va être exécuté par l'équipe. Et puis l'équipe va être en charge, va montrer, va exposer le travail qui a été réalisé. Et ensuite, l'équipe va chercher à s'améliorer. Va se poser la question, comment peut-on faire mieux dans la prochaine boucle de 1 à 4 semaines. Et nous allons répéter ça. Cette boucle de 1 à 4 semaines, on appelle ça un sprint. Évidemment, donc on l'a mentionné, cette organisation implique une équipe autonome et un facilitateur que l'on appelle le Scrum Master.
And I think actually we got a few questions there as well.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. So just to start us off in the questions. Agile seems to be product or project oriented. Is that right?
Well, so it can be project oriented, but really at the end of the day, you have something that you want to do that produces value. You could call it a project. Very often we have ongoing work that gets broken into projects. Agile would say, if you have ongoing work, then put a group of people together necessary to produce that value on a regular basis, maybe 2 teams, maybe 3 teams. And so they would be focused on providing that value, whether it comes in the form of projects or just ongoing work that needs to be done. So whether it's called a product, a project, a value stream, it really depends on how you want to apply it.
L'objectif de l'agilité avant tout est de se focaliser et de produire de la valeur. Alors, ça peut être sous forme de projet, ça peut être sous forme de produit, Ça peut être sous forme de service, de value stream. Il y a différentes façons de formaliser ça. Mais l'objectif final va être tout le temps de se concentrer sur les moyens de créer de la valeur.
And another question, I'm just going to combine two into one. You know, anyways. So is Scrum and Agile seems to be, you know, they're one and the same. They're very similar. But I'm wondering, are there other methods that aren't Scrum that, you know, focus more on dependencies, both external and internal?
Okay, so Scrum would be these sorts of steps and having something called a Scrum Master. Agile is more the philosophy, how we will work. So, for instance, having a group of people work together towards a common goal is general, it's Agile. And then a framework, the specific steps that you would use to accomplish that would be something like Scrum. But there's also Nexus, Safe, Less, all kinds of other things. Kanban method, many. Which ones? So we're not gonna, it seems like there may be some questions diving a little deep here, which is awesome. But we're only scratching the surface of Agile here, just to give people a sense of what it is like for the latter part of the conversation.
And you can find more information. Like we have a community practice on this, so all these questions we'll answer them in further, you know, meetups.
So, maybe if I can add something, something that I like to say is that Agile can be also seen as a mindset, a couple of values, tens of principles, like hundreds of practice, and certainly thousands of tools. Scrum, Kanban are parts of the frameworks and practice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I see we have some awesome opinions in the chat as well, and agree. But we're really just at the high level here today. We're going to focus on the coaching aspects in a moment. Okay, anything else, Todd, that you wanted to call out?
Maybe just a quick question. Does the Scrum Master need to be a developer?
Oh, it could be anybody. So for instance, when I was working in the marketing department, it was a person that generally does copywriting for ads in marketing, right? It could be anybody, but somebody that leans more towards coaching, is good at facilitating, you know, a lot of people skills, soft skills, that sort of thing.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I think maybe we could come back and review some of these questions towards the end, based on the time we have and the interest in the questions. I did notice one thing pop up about the product owner. Yeah, I've left out a lot of things in here. I didn't mention stand-up. I didn't mention product owner. I just want to give people a sense of the overall idea of Agile and Scrum, not to get into all the details, because we're mostly going to focus on coaching versus expertise. Okay. So speaking of which, coaching versus expertise. Okay. So in the Agile world, when we talk about coaches, generally we're talking about somebody called an Agile coach. As it turns out, Scrum Masters are really also Agile coaches, but they have a specific role. Right? So there's a lot of overlap there. The interesting thing about the word Agile coach is it has two words in it, Agile and coach. Now, very often the coach part gets missed, and we focus on the things on the left, mentoring, teaching. And as an Agile coach does mentoring, and teaching, we might think that that's all that an Agile coach is. However, that's really expertise. When we're mentoring or teaching, we're providing expertise. We're not actually coaching. That's a different thing. Coach on the right is when we're inspiring others to come up with their own solutions based on what they already know. So when we're in the coaching mode, when we have that hat on, we're providing no opinions, no advice, no expertise. So we have two hats we might put on, expert hat and coaching hat.
Le rôle de coach agile, et le mot coach agile contient deux mots, contient coach et agile, l'expertise agile d'un côté et le coaching de l'autre. Les Scrum Masters, et il y avait une question précédemment dans le chat, les Scrum Masters font partie des coachs agiles avec la twist qu'ils ont une fonction particulière, d'aider une équipe en particulier. Souvent, ce que l'on observe, c'est dans l'univers du coaching agile, est que la partie expertise est très, très fortement mise de l'avant avec le mentorat, l'enseignement, et que la partie coaching est souvent oubliée.
Okay, any new questions there, Todd?
You know, I'm not reading any new questions, but I have a question on top of my
Okay,
own.
sure.
I'm going to have my own question. So
We could make it a panel.
I'm wondering, you know, is there any, you know, similarities between being an Agile coach and say being a manager and a supervisor that you want to use coaching skills as well as, you know, you're telling people what to do and giving them instructions and mentoring and teaching them?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think it really depends on what kind of manager a person is, right? There are managers that are more on the coaching side, and there are managers that are not as much on the coaching side. Actually, I'm not sure how you would describe that. Many managers do use aspects of coaching in their management, and we're going to go into more detail about what a coach does, and I think you'll see some overlap there. I think where it becomes tricky is that, and maybe actually this helps distinguish between a coach and a manager who's completely got the management hat on and not the coaching hat. It can be confusing. So if you go to a manager and you're looking for coaching, or the person is trying to provide coaching, there can be confusion. Is this person acting as my coach? In which case they're not hoping for a particular outcome or nudging me towards a particular outcome, or are they my manager, where they're coming at it from an evaluation perspective? This is how the job is done perspective. This is what I'm looking for perspective, right? So I'm kind of simplifying it here, but there's a little bit of a tension there.
Ce que l'on peut certainement dire de cette question est que la pratique et la posture de coach peut être retrouvée chez les managers. Il y a certains managers qui sont plus du côté de l'expertise, d'autres peut-être plus du côté du coaching. Que les deux sont compatibles aussi ensemble, mais que parfois, comme le souligne Damon, il peut y avoir de la confusion quand un manager prend une posture de coach, car on peut avoir l'impression qu'il n'attend pas de résultats particuliers, qu'il va être plus dans la facilitation. Donc parfois, il y a de l'alignement à faire.
So I think we'll talk a little bit more about this. So Todd, as we go along, you might think about how we touch on that and perhaps ask a follow-up question. So as a manager, being cognizant of that tension, you can make it clear to yourself and to the coachee, oh, I'm happy to act in a coaching capacity. Afterwards, I might have some follow-on thoughts, or to say, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to be in a coaching, I'm not sure I'm going to be able to use coaching for this issue. And so it's really sort of an agreement and an understanding about what's going on. That's the most important thing there.
Ce qui peut aider en fait à résoudre ces ambiguïtés, c'est de très explicitement mentionner que pour tel ou tel cas, pour tel ou tel sujet, la pratique du coaching ne permettrait pas en fait de résoudre le problème. Et donc on peut renoncer pour aller plus vers une posture plus de manager.
All right. So forget about Agile for a minute. Forget about coaching and everything. Forget about the fact that you're at work. Think about you're going through your day-to-day and you get stuck and you think, I need to go talk to someone. So with that in mind, perhaps you will seek out a person with some of these qualities listed here. I'll let you read through them for a moment.
Si on met de côté pendant quelques instants l'ensemble de l'agilité, l'ensemble du coaching, même l'ensemble du fait qu'on est au travail et qu'on devait juste se focaliser sur le fait qu'on a un problème, on a une tâche et voilà, aujourd'hui on doit aller parler à quelqu'un. Donc peut-être qu'il y a les postures suivantes seraient des postures que l'on trouverait dans n'importe quelle conversation difficile.
Okay. So looking at this list, think how many people do you know when you reach out for somebody to talk to have all of these qualities and are really good at each and every one of them, all at the same time?
Rapidement, comme ça, combien de personnes connaissez-vous qui sont capables et à l'aise de manipuler l'ensemble de ces compétences?
So these all have to do with coaching. When one is in the coaching mode, we practice all of these things. And to become a certified coach, you learn how to take each of these skills to a very high level of proficiency, which you have to demonstrate. It takes a lot of practice and a lot of time and a lot of training. But actually, any work you do on any of these will make your interactions with people in general even that much better.
Toutes ces pratiques sont des pratiques que l'on travaille dans le coaching. Et les coachs professionnels travaillent très fort à s'améliorer et à manipuler à haut niveau l'ensemble de ces pratiques.
All right. So these are the supportive behaviors. And then there's, diminishing behaviors. So I'll let you look through these for a moment, and then we'll speak a little bit more.
Voilà. Et ceux-là sont les comportements réducteurs. Je vous laisse les lire quelques instants.
I noticed that perhaps there's a participant or two that are not seeing the PowerPoint. I don't know what the issue is there, but somebody mentioned something about seeing the slides. So I don't know, there might be an internet issue there. But with that in mind, I think I'll read through I'll go back and read some of the supportive behaviors and then read some of the diminishing ones. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it looks like some folks are not able to. Not sure why. So some of the supportive behaviors are things like paying very close attention and actually hearing what the person is saying. Being fully there for the person and focusing on their issues as opposed to saying, that reminds me of a story.
Donc, les comportements de soutien commencent par porter une attention toute particulière à ce que la personne en face de nous est en train de dire. Et aussi apporter une attention particulière à comment la personne est en train de le dire, comment elle s'exprime. Et éviter de lui répondre par notre histoire personnelle, en lui parlant de ce à quoi ça nous ramène et rappelle.
On the diminishing behavior side, these are things that take away from coaching. And actually, if when going for a credential, you exhibit any of these, you get disqualified. So for instance, getting distracted, changing the topic, criticizing, discouraging, and providing unsolicited opinions and advice.
Et à l'inverse, donc ceux-ci sont les comportements réducteurs. Ces comportements, en fait, nous écartent du coaching, nous écartent de toute la posture. Et lorsque l'on passe les examens, lors de l'entraînement, à vrai dire, démontrer ces comportements sont éliminatoires lors des évaluations. Donc, on peut en lister quelques-uns, tels que interrompre, être distrait, juger, évaluer, fournir des opinions non sollicitées.
Interrupting is a little special. It is actually okay to interrupt, but only for the coachee's benefit, not for your own benefit.
L'interruption est sur un pied particulier. On peut interrompre dans la mesure où ça va être pour le bénéfice de la personne que l'on coach, du coachee. Il faut faire attention à ce que ce ne soit pas pour notre propre bénéfice.
Now, looking at this, it might give the impression that providing unsolicited opinions and advice is a diminishing behavior. It might give the impression that as a coach, you never provide opinions and advice. It's a little bit more complicated than that. So to demonstrate that you can be a professional coach, you do have to refrain from that when you're giving your demonstration. However, when you're practicing, you let people know that you provide both and let them know when you're switching from coaching to expert and back.
Alors, ça peut être un petit peu surprenant quand on lit comme ça les différents comportements. On peut avoir l'impression que le coach ne fournit jamais d'expertise. C'est un peu plus compliqué que ça. Il y a des moments où l'expertise peut être sollicitée, où l'expertise peut être nécessaire. Et dans ce cas-là, une façon de faire est d'annoncer explicitement le passage du coaching à l'expertise et le retour au coaching.
All right, Todd, I wonder if we have any new questions.
All right. So we have a great question, and we have a great support from Tracy. So she says, hey, great session so far. Go team, keep it going. Hey, thanks for that. And then I wonder if you can elaborate on the last behavior. I find it really interesting. Not giving any solution is always difficult.
Are you saying the becoming attached to a specific solution?
Yeah, and then the previous slide about solutionizing, not giving a solution.
Okay, sure. Yeah, so we'll definitely cover that all the way through. But just a quick thing is, it's very hard not to provide a solution. However, when we're in the coaching mode, we're looking to help that person come up with a solution on their own, assuming that they can. If it's a knowledge thing, if they're missing knowledge, then we don't want to be mean and withhold the knowledge that they need. But generally, our need, the coachee's need to have expertise comes actually much later than our desire to share it in general. So the first thing we need to do is refrain and see just how long it is before the coachee actually needs expertise from us.
Se réfréner, la question était qu'il semble très, très difficile de ne pas tomber dans la solution, dans donner des solutions. Et en fait, oui, c'est extrêmement difficile de se réfréner de cette habitude qu'on a. Et il y a souvent différentes raisons pour lesquelles la personne que l'on coach va comme vouloir des solutions, ou en tout cas, qu'on pourrait être intéressé à les fournir. S'il y a un problème de savoir, s'il y a un problème de compétences qui ne sont pas là, alors évidemment, on ne veut pas être méchant envers la personne que l'on coach, et on va tout à fait lui offrir l'enseignement si elle le souhaite. Mais bien souvent, ce besoin en apprentissage arrive bien après d'autres conversations qui sont nécessaires en amont.
All right. So as a coach, as an expert, we're focusing on the problem. Somebody comes to us with a problem, square root of 532. All right. And so we focus on solving that problem. And that's something that we already know how to do. Coaching, on the other hand, focuses on the person. What's going on that the person is not solving it?
L'approche par l'expertise se focalise à trouver la solution au problème. Et puis ça, on a l'habitude de le faire. L'approche par le coaching vise à se concentrer sur la personne et sur les raisons qui empêchent la personne, qui maintiennent la personne bloquée et qui l'empêchent de progresser.
So we start with the assumption that the person can do it on their own, but coaching will be helpful. And to do the coaching, we realize that people are complicated. They have all different aspects of themselves, their values, their priorities, their experiences, and so on. And to help them become unstuck, we use something called powerful questions.
L'une des réalisations principales du coaching est en fait de réaliser que les personnes peuvent être compliquées, que les raisons qui les maintiennent bloquées peuvent être compliquées. Et pour progresser, on utilise un outil en fait une suite d'outils que l'on regroupe sous l'appellation de questions puissantes.
I should also mention that the supportive behaviors and avoiding the diminishing behaviors and powerful questions are not all that a coach does. That's just what we're focusing on today.
Ce que l'on voit aujourd'hui, les postures de support, les postures réductrices et les questions questions puissantes ne sont pas l'ensemble de la boîte d'outils du coach, mais ce sont les trois éléments sur lesquels on travaille aujourd'hui.
So here are some examples of powerful questions. And if you look, you'll notice that they have nothing to do with the coach solving the problem and all to do with encouraging and nudging the coachee to think about where they might be stuck, what they need to do next, and facilitating that process of the coachee working towards the solution on their own.
Ce qu'il est intéressant à remarquer avec ces questions, c'est qu'elles ne sont pas orientées vers le coach, elles ne sont pas orientées à instruire le coach, mais elles sont complètement orientées vers la personne que l'on coach, vers le coachee. Et elles sont dédiées à aider la personne que l'on coach à progresser et à trouver par elle-même les réponses à ces enjeux.
Just letting you look at the questions for a moment. Okay, so let me give you a real example. Actually, this is a question that comes up in Agile all the time. And whether you know Scrum or Agile or not won't really matter for this example. So somebody comes to a coach and says, the problem I'm having that I need help with is that people are not showing up to the stand-up meeting on time. Right? So there's a meeting scheduled. People aren't showing up on time. It's only a 15-minute meeting, so not showing up on time is a problem.
On pourrait prendre un exemple particulier, et c'est un exemple qui n'a rien à voir avec l'agilité ou les frameworks de l'agilité, mais qui est une question toute simple que quelqu'un pourrait prendre et venir poser à un coach. C'est, voilà, j'ai un problème. Les personnes que j'invite à mes rencontres ne se présentent jamais à l'heure.
So an expert might think, oh, I run into that problem many times. Let's see, it could be a manager is showing up and disrupting it. It could be that people don't know what time it is because it switched. It could be, it's not a convenient time for people. It could be this, 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 it could be this.
L'approche de l'expert, ça va être de partager son expérience et de partager sa vision du problème. Donc, il pourrait se dire, ah, je vois de quoi tu parles. Et des possibilités, ça pourrait être, par exemple, qu'un manager vient et puis finalement empêche les personnes invitées de venir, ou ça pourrait être telle autre solution, telle autre solution, telle autre solution, et aller dans un listing de possibilités qui sont propres à lui finalement.
So as an expert, I have to ask a lot of questions that are yes or no to find out what the person has already tried. I could ask them, what have you already tried? And the information I will get, the person already knows. So I haven't helped the person figure it out on their own because there's nothing new there.
La posture de l'expert va être de poser beaucoup de questions oui-non. Est-ce que ceci a été fait? Est-ce que ceci n'a pas été fait? Etc. De façon à comprendre où en est la personne qui pose le problème. La conséquence de ça, c'est que pendant cette conversation, la personne qui vient avec son problème ne progresse pas. C'est uniquement l'expert qui accumule plus de connaissances.
A coach, on the other hand, in that situation, would say, if you reflect on it for a moment, what do you suppose is the main issue here?
De l'autre côté, la posture du coach serait plutôt de formuler une question telle que, si tu prends le temps d'y réfléchir quelques instants, selon toi, quel pourrait être le problème principal?
that can be a little surprising to a person because they're thinking, I came to you to figure it out. However, when the person gives it a try to answer such a question, very often the answer actually comes out surprisingly the same, and it's something like this. You know, I'm not sure they understand the value of Agile.
Alors, c'est sûr que cette posture est très surprenante, surtout les premières fois. La personne pourrait dire « mais je suis venu vers toi pour avoir une réponse ». Mais finalement, quand on engage avec ces questions, et si la personne est réceptive, bien, la réponse pourrait venir d'elle-même, pourrait être quelque chose comme « en y pensant bien, je ne suis pas sûr que les personnes comprennent quelle est la véritable valeur de l'agilité. »
So the expert, and there's nothing wrong with being an expert, by the way. I expect that a person will be both a coach and an expert, but the expert might have spent a lot of time on ideas for improving the stand-up. The coach in that example, and it's a real example, helped the coachee search inside and realize, oh, there's a deeper problem. And so we focus on the problem that the person found on their own rather than the problem that the person said they had initially.
Il n'y a rien de mauvais à être expert et en fait, on a besoin surtout dans le milieu de l'agilité, on a besoin de l'expertise agile pour aider l'environnement. Cependant, le fait de prendre la posture de coach, le coach va aider le coachee à formuler par lui-même et à aller chercher lui-même ses solutions, donc à faire de l'introspection et à progresser par lui-même.
At that point, when the coachee has had the aha moment, they might not need the coach anymore. Now they know what problem to actually go solve.
Cette posture permet d'autonomiser les personnes que l'on aide à ce moment-là, quand il y a cette découverte, cet éclair, ce aha moment. Et bien ensuite, le coachee finalement est autonome. Il a peut-être plus besoin du coach.
Okay, so there's a way to look at coaching overall, which is the person is stuck and there's some goal they're looking to achieve, whether they know what the goal is or not. So we have the issue, the goal, the various paths to get there, and obstacles along the way. I don't want to make that difficult decision. I don't want to make that hard choice. I don't want to reflect on what I might be doing that's causing a problem. I don't want to learn anything. I want you, the magician, to solve the problem for me in a new and unexpected way.
La façon de regarder yeah, I realize I just
Oh, sorry.
do you want to am I just interrupting? Sorry.
Oh no, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, yeah. Donc en fait, il y a plusieurs façons de regarder. Ce qu'on fait, c'est qu'on regarde l'instant présent et on regarde la direction vers le futur, où on va aller. Il y a l'issue, l'enjeu, le but, le chemin et les obstacles. Alors, dans les différentes façons, il y a est-ce que Est-ce que je veux, ou plutôt est-ce que je ne veux pas avoir cette conversation difficile? Je ne veux pas faire ce choix difficile. Je n'ai pas envie de refléter, de faire de l'introspection sur moi-même, sur ce qui se passe. Et je n'ai pas vraiment envie d'apprendre. Ce que je voudrais, c'est que vous, vous trouviez cette solution magique qui va m'amener à mon but.
All right. So an example of a powerful question that can really work well here is something like, if you could change anything about the situation, what would it be? And there's many variations of this question, but usually when you ask this question, the coachee will laugh. If I could change anything, well, if I could change anything, I wouldn't need to have that difficult conversation. I wouldn't have to make that hard choice. I wouldn't have to look in the mirror. And it may be that this is the first time that they've talked about, in the conversation, they've talked about what's actually going on.
Dans une situation bloquée, un petit peu comme celle-là, une question puissante serait si vous pouviez changer quoi que ce soit à la situation, qu'est-ce que ce serait? Et la question est assez surprenante, mais en fait peut débloquer la situation, et ça peut être la première fois que la personne coachée a l'occasion de parler du réel problème, du problème sous-jacent.
So sometimes the coach switching to expert will provide an option, something that was not known by the coachee, that does get around these. But more often than not, it's what I like to call the refrigerator problem. The refrigerator problem is you're hungry, you go to the refrigerator, you don't like any of the choices, so you close the door. Then you go back 15 minutes later, and it's the same things in there. And the question is, okay, I need to make a choice, but which thing am I going to do? And a coach can absolutely help with that.
Une métaphore que l'on peut voir dans cette situation, c'est la métaphore du réfrigérateur, où on va avoir faim, on va se diriger vers le réfrigérateur, ouvrir la porte, et puis là, on s'aperçoit qu'aucune des possibilités dans le réfrigérateur ne sont vraiment intéressantes. Donc bon, on ferme la porte, et puis on s'en va. Mais là, on a toujours faim. Donc on revient 15 minutes plus tard, et puis là, on rouvre la porte. Mais finalement, il n'y a pas plus de solutions. Donc là, on ne sait toujours pas quoi prendre. Et c'est là où le coach peut aider à faire le choix.
All right. So this approach leads to questions by thinking of these things, not asking about the past, not asking them about things they already know, but looking for issue, goal, path, and obstacles to questions that are action-oriented, future-facing, and thought-provoking, where the person has to go, oh. And it's the thinking of something new that is what's helping the coachee.
Quelque chose d'intéressant à observer dans ces questions et dans cette approche, c'est qu'à aucun moment on regarde vers le passé. On est orienté vers l'action, on fait face au futur et on va déclencher des raisonnements, on va déclencher des réflexions.
I've just realized that the way that we handled this slide, the next slide I think is good for reference for the translation for somebody looking through the deck, but we'll just skip through it. Okay. Actually, I think I saw a question go by that could be very pertinent here. What's your thought, Todd?
Yeah, so we have a great question. So typically, in our work environments, you see an expert, a subject matter expert, an SME, and you're like, well, I need to get a solution from them. I'm expecting a solution. And so in your approach, when using a coaching mindset, um, how could that expert redirect and kind of counter the expectations of the person asking for a solution?
I have a couple of thoughts. So first of all, most people come to a coach expecting exactly that. Most people don't expect powerful questions and being asked to reflect. So that's absolutely the starting place.
Donc, la question qui est posée est que les coachs, quand les coachs s'adressent à un coach, souvent, ils attendent des solutions. Alors, comment faire pour rediriger la conversation? Et donc, en fait, d'abord, il y a un point de validation, c'est que oui, systématiquement ou très, très systématiquement, les personnes qui s'adressent à un coach s'attendent à avoir des solutions.
So the first thing is we have to realize that while they say they're looking for a solution, they may be looking for validation. And so we can use a coaching approach to first get to what the real issue is and what they're actually looking for. So that's step one.
À vrai dire, il arrive régulièrement que plutôt qu'une solution, les personnes viennent plus pour de la validation d'opinion ou d'observation. Et là, le coach peut utiliser quelques questions pour en fait remonter au réel problème. Qu'est-ce qui se passe véritablement?
So the answer to that question is actually a whole coach training class. That is exactly what happens in a coach training class. But one more small thought, and then we'll move on, is it's important to explain what coaching is and what expertise is so that you don't surprise the person or annoy the person. And having what's called a coaching agreement is exactly that. So you say, I can offer coaching, and here's what it is, either through a demonstration or sending some materials. And I also have expertise, but the way I work, I start with coaching until it's really clear that there is expertise that you need from me.
Comment identifier le réel problème? C'est le sujet en fait de tout un enseignement, de toute une classe d'enseignement. Mais disons pour simplifier, ce qui est important, c'est de dire explicitement, d'expliquer à la personne qui vient vous voir que avec la posture de coach, on pourrait prendre cette direction-là, et avec la posture d'expert, on pourrait avoir cette autre approche. Et le coaching agreement, ou le contrat de coaching, est un document qui justement vient expliquer ça, qui vient expliquer comment est-ce qu'on peut travailler ensemble.
I'll give you an experiment where you can experience this for yourself. The next time somebody comes to you asking for your opinion, your advice, or your expertise, not in an annoying way, but resist your own urge. What happens is that generally you'll give it first. Resist your own urge to provide it until it's explicitly asked for. And I think you'll have an unusual experience.
Il y a une expérience assez simple à mener, et simplement la prochaine fois que quelqu'un vient vous voir pour un conseil, eh bien tout simplement de résister, de sentir cette impulsion monter et de résister au besoin de donner une réponse, de résister à ça et vous allez observer une réaction assez surprenante.
Okay, so this slide is a little bit of a summary of what we've already talked about. So we won't go into everything here, but perhaps some things that we have not yet talked about are that when we're in the coaching mode, we're not trying to remember everything that the person said. We're not trying to take notes. We're not trying to understand or get into their shoes. They're already in their shoes. So when we switch to the expert, we may do those things. We may need to get information that they would have told us in the past. But that's only when it comes to the point where they clearly need the expertise. And so then we will absolutely give it to them.
Quand on est dans la posture de coach, finalement, on ne cherche pas à conserver toutes ces informations. On ne cherche pas à demander et à se rappeler de tous les détails et de toutes les informations qui seront données. La personne que l'on aide est déjà au courant de toutes ces informations. Et pour la posture de coach, ce n'est pas si pertinent. Par contre, quand on passe dans la posture d'expert, là, définitivement, là, on va avoir besoin de l'information. On va avoir besoin de cette information pour offrir des conseils pertinents.
So when we're using a coaching mindset and have not yet switched to the expert mindset, that's going to help us ask questions that are based on what the coachee directly said and are open where we don't know the answer. The answer will come from the coachee, and that will direct our next question.
Quand on est dans la posture de coach, les questions que l'on amène vont être avant tout basées sur la personne que l'on accompagne. Et ces questions vont être avant tout ouvertes. Elles vont aider la personne à progresser.
So for instance, let's say that somebody comes to the coach and they say, you know, our retrospectives, not everybody is fully participating in our retrospectives, which is another Agile meeting.
Un exemple assez simple et assez régulier de situation en agilité, ça pourrait être quelqu'un qui vient voir un coach en disant « Écoutez, vous savez, les participants des rétrospectives, finalement, n'engagent pas beaucoup, ne participent pas vraiment activement. »
So a very common thing that can happen that causes that the expert will know is, oh, perhaps there's a manager showing up and people don't want to speak in front of the manager. Perhaps we're using the same format for the meeting over and over. Many other things that could happen.
Donc là, l'expert prendra une pause de proposition, d'analyse de problèmes et de proposition de solutions. Donc, il pourrait imaginer qu'un manager se présente et que les personnes ne veulent pas parler parce que le manager est là. Alors, il y a comme un inconfort. Et puis, il pourrait aller vers d'autres problèmes, solutions.
So if I ask, say, does the product owner, who often can have that effect, show up at the retrospectives? That has nothing to do with what the coachee said. And it's not open. It's yes or no. So it's me as an expert directing the conversation.
Quand on propose comme ça des solutions, en fait, ce qu'on amène, c'est des questions fermées et des questions suggestives qui n'ont pas véritablement grand-chose à voir avec ce que la personne que l'on accompagne amène, mais plutôt ce que nous, on est capable de proposer.
Just as an aside, we have 4 more slides. Okay, so what a coach might ask at this point is either the question from before, what do you think is the main issue? Or they might ask something like, what potential solutions are you considering? And considering as opposed to have considered. Because most people, when they come to a coach, have already been considering some things, but there's some reason they're not moving forward.
Une question qui peut être puissante est quelle solution envisagez-vous? Et il est bien important de mettre le focus sur ce que vous envisagez maintenant. Parce que quand quelqu'un vient nous voir, en fait, il se peut qu'ils aient déjà des solutions en tête, mais que quelque chose les empêche d'aller de l'avant, quelque chose les bloque.
Okay, I did see some questions go by, but I think actually our next few slides will give great context for those. So let's continue forward and hold questions at this point. So now we're going to move into providing the expertise, but with a coaching mindset.
Donc, on entre dans offrir l'expertise, mais avec l'état d'esprit du coach.
So the first thing we want to realize is we want to provide as little information as necessary and no more. And we want to do it in a neutral way, not a robotic way, but we want to avoid praise and criticism. And I'll explain why in a moment.
La façon dont on va partager des retours d'expérience donc va aller dans ces quatre axes-là, l'axe de l'observation, l'axe de la mesure des attentes, fournir de l'expertise et aussi garder une certaine neutralité. On ne veut pas aller dans la critique, on ne veut pas aller non plus dans l'apologie. Ces postures ont des impacts qu'on va détailler un petit peu plus tard.
So perhaps as a child, you played the game hot and cold. Something was hidden, and as you get close to it, the person says hot, hotter, or as you get further away, they say cold, freezing.
Quand vous étiez enfant, vous avez peut-être joué au jeu du chaud et du froid, ou même avec vos enfants d'ailleurs, où quelque chose est caché, et puis vous venez donner des indications à tu es glacé, tu chauffes, à très très chaud, ah non, là tu refroidis.
So the coaching mindset is we want to be clear, we want to be direct, and we want to have all choices be able to be made by the coachee. And so we're going to focus on specific things that the coachee may not have seen. So even though we're providing expertise, we're looking to do it in a way that's well received and leaves the choice to the coachee.
Prendre une posture de coach, c'est à peu près l'inverse de ce jeu-là. On veut donner toutes les capacités à la personne que l'on coach de prendre les décisions et d'avancer par elle-même.
So for example, actually, I'm just going to speak the example, and then I think we can actually skip the next slide as well for the same reasons I mentioned before. So if I say, Jonathan, that was a wonderful stand-up. And then the next day I say, Jonathan, what was wrong? That stand-up was terrible. And then the next day I say, oh, that stand-up was better. And then the next day I say, that stand-up was not as good. I guess I'm expecting him to know why.
Donc évidemment, prenons un exemple. Si je dis Damon, aujourd'hui ce stand-up était excellent. Et demain, j'arrive et là je dis non, Damon, ce stand-up était absolument catastrophique. Et le troisième jour, j'arrive en disant bon, ce stand-up était un peu mieux. À un certain point, en fait, la personne que l'on accompagne va vraiment se demander pourquoi. En fait, on va s'attendre à ce qu'elle nous demande pourquoi.
So, on the other hand, if I say, Jonathan, that stand-up went to 30 minutes. He might say, yes, isn't that wonderful? Because his experience is at another company where that was good. But my expectation is 15 minutes. And so after he said, yes, isn't that good? I realized, oh, we have different expectations. So then I might say, well, at this organization, we expect that meeting to be 15 minutes. And then as a result, he might say, oh, okay, I know what to do.
Donc, d'une autre façon, si je dis Damon, aujourd'hui, ce stand-up a duré 30 minutes. Là, Damon pourrait très bien interpréter et dire oui, n'est-ce pas excellent? Ça semble avoir été très, très bien. Mais là, en fait, nos attentes à nous étaient des attentes que le stand-up dure 15 minutes. Et donc, sans être explicite, on commence à observer que les attentes des différentes personnes sont totalement différentes. Peut-être lui avait une expérience, nous, on a une autre expérience. Et on manque, en fait, d'alignement.
So if I'm being specific and saying, giving an observation, right, and expectations, and then if that doesn't work, expertise, I'm giving all of the choice for what to do next to Jonathan. Maybe he already knows what to do next, or maybe at the end he says, oh, how could I do that?
Si je prends une posture d'expert, je vais donner à Damon tout un tas de recommandations. Et puis, je vais lui lister les unes après les autres. Et peut-être que sa question, ça va tout simplement être ah, d'accord, mais comment est-ce que je peux faire ça?
So I think based on time, we're going to skip to the last two slides. And what's there will be good for reference anyway, if somebody's interested. But because of the great questions we've got, and I know that there's more, I want to focus on the questions rather than the material here. Okay, so if you're interested in learning more about a way to provide expertise, leaving choice, this is a flow that you can use in both English and French. And then there's also a way to provide choice at 3 different levels. I guess let me pause there.
Donc, pour des raisons de temps, on va conserver le temps qui nous reste pour les questions, pour adresser plusieurs questions qui semblent très pertinentes. On peut trouver comment est-ce qu'on passe d'une posture de coach à une posture d'expert et revenir à la posture de coach. Et donc, sur cette dernière slide sur laquelle on va se concentrer, on va pouvoir voir 3 niveaux de choix que l'on peut fournir lorsqu'on veut fournir de l'expertise.
So you can either pause the slides. Okay, so you can either pause the slides, or this is actually not the last slide, but you can either pause the slides or take a look at the presentation. But just very quickly, the idea is that there's 3 levels of choice. You leave the choice very open. And the first example, the person didn't know something about the Scrum guide, so you give them just that information and stop, let them decide what to do. In the next one, they don't know how to use that information, and so you give them a resource. And then finally, they don't have time to use that resource, and so you give them a couple of examples and then let them choose.
Donc, il y a 3 niveaux sur lesquels on peut se concentrer, sur 3 niveaux que l'on peut offrir à la personne que l'on accompagne. Soit la personne a une question dans laquelle il lui manque de l'information, et donc ce qu'on peut simplement offrir, c'est de l'information, comme une information qui serait dans le Scrum Guide, que la personne ne connaîtrait pas. peut-être en fait ce que la personne que l'on accompagne ne sait pas, c'est comment utiliser l'information. Donc, on peut lui offrir une ressource telle que Rétromat dans cet exemple. Ou alors, c'est plutôt quelque chose relié à l'expérience, un manque d'expérience, un manque de cas pratiques. Dans ce cas-là, on peut offrir des exemples.
Okay, and the translation is also available in the slides for reference. Okay, so this is perhaps one of the more important slides. And the idea is that you're always at the home base of professional coaching. And then from there, you might go out to teaching and come back. You might share a little bit of experience and then come back. And you might share an observation and then come back to professional coaching. Always leave the choice of what to do next to the coachee.
Ce qu'on souhaiterait retenir, c'est de garder la position de coach comme la position de référence, la position de base. En fonction de la situation, on peut s'écarter et puis on peut partager de l'expérience, partager une ressource, comparer des attentes, enseigner, mais toujours revenir à la position de coach et amener des questions qui vont permettre à la personne que l'on accompagne de décider. C'est la personne que l'on accompagne qui décide quel est le prochain pas.
Okay, and then finally, and I think this may get to some of the questions, how do you stay in the coaching mode, right? So I know there was also, I think there was a question about pivoting, but how do you stay in the coaching mode? And so here's some thoughts. First, resist your own urge to provide. Oh, I know the answer. Resist your own urge. Use coaching agreements. This is what is expected from both parties. That's a whole topic all by itself. To provide education on coaching, exactly what we're doing right now. So all of you now here in the audience have, maybe you're already familiar with coaching, but for those that it's a little bit newer, you have some experience with what coaching looks like, right? We didn't do a demo or anything, but you have a better sense of what it looks like. And that can help set people's expectations.
Donc, cette dernière slide sur quelques recommandations pour revenir en fait dans cette posture de base, de référence, de coaching. Donc, ces différents points sont quelques points de réflexion, il y en a certainement d'autres. Et le premier, c'est certainement de résister soi-même à sa propre impulsion, à donner des conseils non sollicités et à venir donner des solutions. Ensuite, on a parlé du coaching agreement, donc cet accord qui va déterminer les règles du jeu en fait, avec la personne que l'on accompagne. On peut aussi aider et donner de la formation sur qu'est-ce que le coaching. C'est un petit peu ce qu'on fait présentement finalement. Et une dernière recommandation, ça peut être de fournir l'expertise au dernier moment finalement, au dernier moment responsable.
And the last two things are that when you're providing expertise, use that professional coaching mindset. Let the choice be theirs. So if you say, here's something you could do, leave it at that. Don't ask if they thought it was a great idea. Don't say that's for sure it. Just present it, see if they take it. Maybe they don't, and they say, well, that could be good, except for this. And now you have new information about where to go next. So, and finally, try to provide as little as you can, not in an annoying way, just as much as is needed, and no more. Go back to coaching, provide a little bit more, go back to coaching.
Un point important lorsque l'on va fournir une expertise ou un conseil, ça va être de ne pas chercher de validation, de ne pas leur demander est-ce que c'est une bonne idée ou est-ce que cette idée vous plaît, de simplement proposer l'idée et de laisser la personne l'interpréter, raisonner et d'en tirer ses propres conclusions.
All right. And then finally, I've spent a fair amount of time in Toronto and in Montreal, and I've taken French classes a long time ago, but my French is has a certain je ne sais quoi to it. So I really want to thank Jonathan for helping to translate this. So many thanks to Jonathan. Yay!
See.
And we have to end, I believe, right on the dot. So we have about 8 minutes for questions. What shall we do?
So how about a couple of rapid fire hardballs, softballs? I don't know. But a couple of questions for you. Can you coach the unwilling? Someone doesn't want to be coached. Can you coach them?
No.
That's the answer. Boom. Next question.
Well,
right.
hang on. So it does come up a lot. Usually there's a reason the person is unwilling to have coaching. They didn't ask for it. They don't see the need for it. They don't see the value. They don't understand what it is. And so there's generally a valid reason. It may be that the person that is providing the coaching, and nothing intended there, but it may be the person that's providing it is doing it in a way that rubs the person the wrong way. It might not be the coach for that person. It's something to think about.
Great. And another question, how can you get comfortable with switching hats? What are some tips and tricks with being fluid and giving advice, being an expert, and not giving advice and not being an expert?
Well, there's really only two things. Asking that question is a great first step, thinking, maybe that's something that I want to do. Next step is practicing it, trying it. Try it with friends and family. That's a good soft start. And then finally, it really is practice, but training and reading is a good way to go. I recommend the book Coactive Coaching. It's a great, covers everything book. And there may be another book that's pertinent to Agile coming soon.
All right, and just to help, there is a book coming that Damon wrote with his partner Jillian. You should all check it out. It's going to be so great. I can't wait for it myself. I'm going to buy it. Maybe I'll get even a signed copy. All right. Any parting words from you, Damon, on our great presentation today? Yeah.
I just want to say thanks for the opportunity, and I wish I could be there in person, maybe another time. And also, I think you already said this, but we're gonna follow up on the questions. So feel free to share them with me, and I'll give them a shot as well.
All right.
Maybe Todd, there is a question on the name of the book again.
So it is Professional Coaching for Agilists. I wonder, is there a link we could share for that or anything?
It's not available till March. There is a pre-order, which can be found on Amazon.
Okay, so check your local Amazon outlet on your phone or your tablet or your computer. We have a link to it in chat. Thank you, Steph.
Oh,
That's great.
Okay.
And, yeah.
And for those that are not interested in the Agile side as much, the Coactive book really is fantastic in general.
mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
All right. And with that, we'll close our session. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Jonathan. You guys are all the best.
Thank you, Todd. Thanks for the great hosting.
Hey.
Thanks, Todd.
All right. Well, thank you all.
Thank you.
Have fun in the next session.
Bye-bye.